Hey there, everybody. Welcome to a kind of impromptu live stream. I'm flying solo today. I was trying to get a video up talking about the Riv Derailer and all the stuff I was going to set up through it, but had a hard time getting it together. So I thought I would just do it as a live stream, and hopefully some people will trickle in and ask some questions. If you guys have any questions about the Riv Derailer, I've got 2 short rides on it and kind of the quirks of setting it up. If you've never set up a rapid rise rear derailleur, then definitely put it in the comments below. Also, let me know where you're watching from. I'm assuming it is fairly early in North America at the moment. It's 5 p.m. here in Spain. So it's probably what, like 8 a.m. in PST. Let me know if you're in that time zone. So yeah, the Rivendell OM1 rear derailleur is here. What are my impressions of riding with it, of setting it up, and everything that had to go into converting the Riv from a alt bar bike into a curly bar bike? All right, so we've got someone here from Seoul. Hey, how's it going? What time is it there? Yeah, so before I talk about the derailleur, like one of the biggest challenges was actually figuring out the brakes again. You know, I had swept back bars and I was using some flat bar levers and Palm Modolites, which are like very nice and expensive kind of V-brakes. Here they are. But clearly they don't work with drop bar levers. That's just kind of the nature of V-brakes and drop bars. And initially I'd wanted to maybe try running these with some travel agents, which is, I've got a whole box of random parts here. With travel agents, I don't know who here is familiar. Oh, shoot. Who here is familiar with travel agents? I feel like it's been a while since I've actually used these for their intended purpose. But basically what these allow you to do is it multiplies the cable pull from road bike bars, which are short pull, and so they work well with V-brakes, which use a longer pull. Fun fact, if you've never used a travel agent, there's actually 2 settings, and it's kind of easy to get them wrong. You'll notice that there are 2 holes here where you can screw in this barrel adjuster. And if you put the barrel adjuster on this outermost hole, you can run it just as like a simple like pass through to make a cleaner like 90-degree bend in the housing and the cable. But if you want to use it for the intended use of multiplying cable pull, you have to put the barrel adjuster in this inner one. And I don't know how to explain this. The cable goes, oh shoot, these things are slippery. The cable will pop out this direction, and then you've got to weave it through a hole and goes around the circle, and it pops out here. Anyways, had to dig these out to make the V-brakes work with the road bike brakes. And to be honest, it felt okay, but it wasn't great. So like the V-brakes I ended up using to replace the very nice and expensive Modolites for some very cheap Shimano Alivio V-brakes. I think these can be had for like 17 euro or dollars, so not very expensive. And I think they work fine as just plain V-brakes with flat bar levers, but with the travel agents, I was expecting them to do a little bit better. The front was okay, but the rear felt a little mushy, and it took more force than I wanted to lock up the rear wheel. And I feel like that is my kind of the baseline thing a brake has to be able to do, right? If you can't lock up the rear wheel from the hoods of the bars, then it's probably not strong enough. It was barely able to do that, but it took a lot of force. So I got rid of those. A lot of people had suggested using mini V-brakes, which is something like this. It's on the rib right now. And basically what it is it's like a V-brake, but with shorter arms. And because of that reason, it will work with drop bar levers. There are some caveats. There's a tighter tire limit size because the where the cable goes across to the other arm is a lot shorter. Thankfully, the bike is set up 650B by 48, and it just barely grazes the top of the tire. So that's one thing to consider. Also, some mini V brakes are optimized for narrower rims, so like 19 millimeter. So if you're running a wider rim, then it can be kind of problematic. So that's, I didn't actually want to go the mini V brake route, but I really wasn't happy with the travel agents and the regular V brake route. I did some research. A bunch of people suggested different things like I think the TRP 8.4 or something like that. But they don't make those anymore. And I couldn't find any here in Europe for new, and I didn't want to go through eBay and go on the hunt. And even if I could get them, they're like $80 a pop, which is way more than I wanted to spend on like, just cheap parts for like a video. And then someone on the gram suggested some mini V brakes from kind of the generic company XLC. I don't know, do you guys have this in the States, or is this just like a EU thing? Let me know. They make a couple variations of this, and you have to be really careful in picking which one, because I saw one review of one where you're saying it wasn't a true mini V and it didn't work with drop bar levers. So there was like a specific model number. It's not even printed on the cardboard here, but it's like 004 or something like that. I ordered one through Uncle Jeff, came the next day, which is today, mounted it, and it actually works surprisingly well. Much better than the old TRP mini Vs I used in the past. I had like a clear recollection of those being kind of suboptimal, like mushy, expensive. I feel like I remember paying like 80 or 90 bucks for them, and just not being very happy because you had to set up the pad so close, and the lever feel wasn't that great. But these, for 11 euro, shockingly good. Not like the best brake I've ever experienced, but much better brake than the Alivio brakes with the travel agents. Like, I'm able to bring the rear wheel to a sliding stop from the hoods. Again, like bare minimal baseline for what a brake should do, in my opinion, with these. So let me know if you guys have any experience with the XLC mini V brakes. Okay, where are people watching from? All right, someone from Kathmandu, Jacksonville, Florida, 116 in Seoul. That's early, man, or late. And then Chuck Rogers, morning from California. And we've got Actual Bike Academy, 11 a.m. Michigan, USA. Cool. Let's see. Odrinky here says, my local shop is getting OM1s next week. Stoked to swap them into the next wave of those. Can tell by your screen name that you're probably a watch nerd as well. Let's see. CN asks, so this thing could make my TRP high roads work with TRP RRL levers. Wow. I don't know. I mean, they should. RL levers should work with the high roads right off the bat, right? Isn't it designed for cable road pull? And we've got Simon here from the UK. Okay. So yeah, mini V brakes, cheap ones. Again, these were 11 euro and work shockingly good. I actually just ordered another pair like an hour ago. Hopefully we'll get them by tomorrow. And then when we go on the longer ride on Sunday, I'll get a better sense of these brakes. But so far, pleasantly surprised. A little bit bummed that I couldn't make it work with the metal lights, since these are so nice and expensive. But we got to do what actually works, not just what's blingy and yeah, what's blingy. All right, got someone here from Toronto. Howdy. Let's see. My Two Coins says, I got some King Creek drop bar levers made for V-brakes back in about 2014. They still make those. I don't think King Creek makes those. I've seen Tetra ones. I forget what the model number is, floating around. So those are still in the ether. I don't know if they're still making them in production, but there's some remaining stock. There was there's an online store here in Europe called I think it's justpedal.nl, and it's like the alt cycling online store. They had a pair which I should have snagged a couple of like weeks ago, but it doesn't look like they have them anymore because I was searching for them. But yeah, Tetra used to make them. King Creek used to have them. I don't know if they came out of the same factory and were just like rebranded, but they're getting harder to find. So someone here says, Tetra ones are horrible shape, narrow, not worth it. Yeah, you know, the shape is one thing, but if it works with the levers, it's, you know, I feel like I could deal with a narrow shape, and as long as it worked with the levers. All right, so we've got Hector here from the Bay Area. Howdy. Yeah. All right, so the brakes were like the big issue. I swapped out the handlebars with the Ritchie Venture Max in silver. And I've actually, you know, typically I run like a 46. I like a wider handlebar, but for this one, I chose a 44. Also set up a 44 Venture Max on the Blackheart. Like I feel like I'm in this phase where the bars have gotten wide enough and now I'm kind of just retracting a little bit. And a lot of this is because I feel like it adds a lot of reach when the wider the bar gets, and you have to compensate with like a shorter stem. And I'm hitting the limit on some of the bikes with like too short of a stem. Like for example, on the Riv, I've got a 60 millimeter stem, and I feel like that gives me about the saddle to bar reach that I want. And what's interesting is like one thing I've realized about the Riv compared to like the Sklar, the Blackheart, or any other kind of road bike, roadish style bike that I've ridden or owned, is the geometry is kind of weird. In terms of a drop bar, this is the Sam Hilborn, by the way, in case you're wondering which one I'm referring to. And I was like struggling a bit to get the fit with drop bars on the Sam. And I think that was one of the reasons why I ultimately switched it to an alt bar bike with sweatbacks, because it fit better that way. And switching it back to drop bars, it like made me realize like why that was. Yeah, so I'll get into it if you guys want. Any other Rivendell owners here or Sam Hilborn owners here specifically, let me know if you experience these same things. Let's see here. Brekik asks, not that it helps, but Tetra doesn't seem to have the long pole road levers, but they do have regular V lever and integrated bell. Nice. They do have the long poles. Those are still in existence. My two coins. I'm going to try the PNW wider drop bars here soon. Stock flat bars have gone way too wide. I've started cutting my flat bars down to where I like them, 750. Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of the new trends of wider flat bars are meant to be cut down. Like I cut down the PBJ bars from Sklar, like maybe an inch on either side. Yeah, something to do. Okay, Actual Bike Academy says, I have a Sam Hilborn in the build stage. Are you building it up as a drop bar or as a flat bar sweatback bike? Super curious. I'll tell you what I've come to realize about the Sam in setting up with a drop bar. Okay, so I believe this is the smallest size Sam Hilborn, and it looks teeny. I mean, if you judge it by the size of the head tube, but it's surprisingly long. I forget what, I don't know what I don't have the geo chart with me, but it totally shocked me to realize how long it was. So that's one reason that's one reason that contributes to like the need for a shorter stem for me. But another reason is it also has a fairly slack seat tube angle, and I think it's like 71 or something, fairly slack. And I'm more accustomed to bikes that are like in the 73, 74 degree, and that helps make a more compact riding position for me. So to get a position that's similar to the other road bikes I have to slam the seat forward and use a really stubby stem, which I thought was kind of interesting. When I had it in sweepback bar mode, I could run a longer stem. It wasn't a big issue because the bars were swooping back, it just lent it. The bike lends itself to more sweepback bar geometry, but for a road bike, it just feels like strangely long. Let's see. Hector here says, "Hi Russ, have the Leo ROADIE. It's still in the box, but I want to build up with a Mega 2X monster gearing using S-Ride 580 rear derailleur. Thanks for the video in the past." Yeah, that's the one to do it with. If you want a massive cassette with modern Shimano road pull, that definitely is an awesome rear derailleur. Another option, I have parts for this. I haven't done the video yet, but is to show you how to get massive 2X gearing with microshift sword, not using the sword derailleurs, but actually using Advent derailleur. They've got one model in particular which has much larger like range capacity and take up, and you can do 11 to 42 in a 2x with sword, but you can't use the sword derailleur. That makes sense. You have to use one of the older Advent ones, but allegedly it works fine. I've got the parts. I'm trying to figure out which bike to put it in or put them on. Maybe the Riv after I'm done testing the OM1 Derailer, but yeah. Okay. So I've been yapping for a while. If you guys have questions about the Hillborn or the OM1 Derailer, let me know. And have you guys had experience setting up a rapid rise derailleur before? Because it was a bit of it screwed with my head a little bit, and I feel like that's one reason why it didn't take off. Not necessarily like it's a bad design, but I bet you mechanics hated setting it up because it was opposite, and they kind of just spread like the bad word about it. Yeah, that's my theory of why it didn't take off. Not because it was inherently bad, but probably mechanics working on the bikes didn't like setting it up or having to do something differently, and it just kind of shot in the foot. Okay, right here says, I would assume with a longer geo frame would be more suited with sweepback bars and upright seating position. Why the change? Yeah. So it does make it suited to upright seating position. Why the change to the drops? Just for funsies. One of the things about the OM1 derailleur is one of the questions people were asking is like, what's the cable pull? Could you run it with brifters? And that's honestly why. Just kind of trying to answer that question of like what brifters are compatible with the OM1 if you were to use it with road brifters. I think their intent was to for people to use it with bar ends or with friction shifters, but yeah, I wanted to see. Okay. Something else that's used rapid rise here. Yeah, so what I found, short version of the forthcoming review is that it works with classic 9-speed Shimano brifters. So whatever 9-speed brifter exists, that should work. And some of the 10-speed should work as well. Like if you find 10-speed 105 Dura-Ace Ultegra, I believe those still use the classic Shimano, and it was only the Tiagra 4700. I could be wrong, but there's going to be some iterations of 10-speed Shimano brifters that will work with this, even though it's 9-speed. Let's see. Actual Bike Academy will be considering a 1x12 with the Madrone jab, Ceramic Explorer, Paul Crank 142 micro shifter, Paul brakes, and regular mount recessed. That's an interesting build. Are you going to be doing, I'm assuming, micro shift in friction? Or I didn't know that they had like a 12-speed anything. Let's see. Give it here says, greetings, here for the vibes. My 2 coins. It's been a while, but I had Centaur XC group on the mid 80s, Ross Mount Whitney with top normal derailleur, right? Okay, so in terms of like shifting, let's talk about the shift quality. Again, this is with a Brifter. So it's, I always feel like this is like a slippery slope because you don't really get a sense of rear derailleur if you're using it index. What you're feeling is the index shifting, right? If you want to get a true sense of like the tension that the derailleur pulls, you have to do it with friction. So this is more of a, probably a comment on how well it works with the Ignite, with the Ignite Brifters I'm using. Those are the Sense Ignites, got them from Ali like about a year ago, and they do come in an all silver version if that's how you guys want to roll. And it works okay. It's kind of weird because the shifters are SRAM double tap style, and if you use double tap, you know that one click goes into a harder gear and the double click goes into easier gear. And with the Sense Ignite, it's backwards. So one click goes into the easy gear and the double click goes into a harder gear. So it's pretty bananas. Okay. So Actual Bike Cam, he says there's a Micro Shift Thummy you can get in either 1:1 or 2:1 ratio, 11 or 12 speed with a friction or index mount. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Got someone here from Western Australia, 1235. All right, people burning the midnight oil. Thanks for hanging out. Okay. Yeah, so with the Sensa, shifts fine, just like you would expect. It does take like some really concerted thought to shift in the right direction. At first, I'm kind of acclimated, but there are moments when I'm like tired or like reacting quickly, and then I default to like how I think double tap should work, and it kind of throws me off. I think the toughest part is like when you're standing and climbing, it's easier to do the single shift to get into a harder gear. When you're standing and climbing and have to actuate the double shift, I feel like it takes a little bit more finesse to get into a harder gear, like set up with the low normal. Ad Hunt says ribs are intentionally designed for swept back bars, so your experience makes sense. Yeah, it's very clear from the the bugaboos setting up as a drop bar bike, which is weird because I feel like when I first got into Riv, which was early 2000s, they had more drop bar offerings. I don't know if like the geometry has changed since then, or they've always used the same geometry and just like now put swept back bars on it. I do think that it favors tall people though, which makes sense because like both Grant and Will are really tall, so they don't know short people problems. But yeah, it's a little bit of a tricky bike to fit if you're a shorter person and you want drops. Okay. I talked about the shift quality. In terms of setting it up, it was pretty straightforward. There's a high and low limit screw. There's a B screw. There's a pinch bolt that's not very complicated in that respect. The one tricky thing I think is when you put the derailleur on there without a chain, its resting state is like spread eagle. It's like it's open, and it, putting the rear wheel in, it kept running into the cassette, and it was kind of like you had to really kind of work around the cassette until you got the chain on, where the derailleur would be properly tensioned. It wouldn't bung up the works, if that makes sense. Whereas like with a normal derailleur, since it's in its collapsed form, closer to the smaller cogs on the cassette, it's out of the way of the big cogs, and it's easier to spin the wheel and get everything else set up. So that was probably the most annoying thing, or like different thing that I had to adjust to. The other thing is, when you're setting up a rear derailleur, you're usually going between the first two cogs, kind of dialing in the cable tension. My head would default to that, but you actually have to do that with the largest and second largest cog. And it dawned on me like about 5 minutes in, it's like, oh wait, I'm totally like setting the indexing on the wrong side of the cassette. So that's one thing to consider. Like everything's just a little bit backwards, which I guess is what you should expect. Let's see, Actual Bike Cami, if I'm correct, you have a setback seat post. Yeah, it is a setback seat post, and I have considered a 0-degree offset, but finding a 26.8 seat post, like any seat post, is a challenge these days, especially here in Europe. Like there's a few like setback options. I've not encountered any 0 offset 26.8 seat posts. If you guys know of any, let me know. I should also ask like 2-bolt. I feel like the 1-bolt ones tend to slip. Like this is a 1-bolt one, and I fight it on occasion. So 26.8, 2-bolt, 0 offset. That would be the dream. So Hector asks, will you be able to make a video feature of the S-Ride GR680 derailleur in 2X friction? I'm not familiar with that one. I don't know if I have that one. MTally asks, use Rapid Rise from 99 until 2013. I've forgotten the set pains, but do remember getting used to shifting, taking 2-3 weeks. Yeah. There were lots of comments like in the first few videos are talking about like, oh, it's terrible, Rapid Rise, that's why it failed. I don't actually think that's true. I think there were lots of things that happened at the same time that made for like an unfavorable environment to adapt it. The first one being it was paired with like the integrated like mountain bike shift and brake lever. So there's growing pains with that. And also just setup is backwards. So if you think about it, busy shop environment, mechanics are setting stuff up, and then they get this backwards derailleur. Of course, they're gonna like whinge about it. And I'm sure like that got reflected to the customers, and customers carried that on. So that's kind of my working theory of like why it didn't take off. It's not because it necessarily performed bad. Again, just got it, but it was enough of something different from the normal procedure that it threw a wrench in the system. My 2 coins. Can you shift to a small cog to remove the rear wheel, or is the tension weird that way? No, yeah, you can shift to the small cog to remove the rear wheel, and it will hold it. From a user perspective, like doesn't feel like any different, but you just have to manually do it. Okay, so Mike Giesby says Originate makes a 2-bolt, 0 offset. All right, put a link in the comments. I want to see it. 26.8 though, not 27.2. All right, we got someone fab in the house. How's it going? Okay, Actual Bike Academy says Origin 8 Pro Fit, polished silver, 0-degree offset, 400 millimeter. Is it 26.8? Okay, yes, it is 26.8. 8. Yeah, you know, one thing I've learned about living in Europe is we don't have access to all the things. And sometimes those very niche items get really expensive. So now I can totally commiserate with our EU counterparts living here now. All right. What else about the setup? If you guys have any other questions about setting up the OM1, let me know in the comments. Honestly, the hardest part about the conversion from the alt bar to the drop bar was figuring out the brakes. As you can see here, I've gone through like quite a few brakes to get it going. I think since I've gone through all the trouble to turn the Riv into a curly bar bike, I'm probably going to test the microshift wide range double setup with the Riv since I've got appropriate brakes for it now. So yeah, I'm going to give the OM1 maybe like a month's worth of riding and then swap it over to the microshift and see where we go from there. All right, we've got Germany in the house. How's it going, Matthias? And also Marcio Cook, 5820 from Japan. All right. Any other questions? Who else? Who else remembers these? You either love them or you hate them. I think most people hate these. I found them not as bad as I remember. Probably the worst thing about travel agents is like once you put a brake cable through here, it's kind of bunged. They're hard to reuse. Okay, so on the OM1, are any of the pins serviceable? That's a good question. I am not sure. I will pass that on to Grant. After the last video, Grant sent me a very long email and he invited me to send over questions that you guys might have. So I will have that noted and pass it on. Okay. Paul and Equals are out of budget. Do you have any suggestions for short pull mechanical caliper that works with TRP, RR levers, anything other than spires? So we're talking disc brakes here. Yeah, you know, another option is Shimano. Shimano makes mechanical disc brakes that a lot of people don't know about. If you go to our shop visit with Oficina 35 in Portugal, we actually get into it there. I forget the exact model number, but that would be one to try out. They're in the same spot where Paul's and Equals are like way out of budget for most of their customers, but they've been really happy with these Shimano mechanical discs. So check out that video. And there's a part when we're talking about like an all city build, and they have the Shimano mechanical discs. So let's see. Yeah, every time you say OM1, I just think, yeah, me too. I think of Olympus as well. All right, Actual Bike Academy says if we come back to America, stop in Michigan, I'll get you a seat post. I'll sponsor you with that. Totally. Can you tell if the OM1 shifts well under load? It's noticeably easier going to the easier gears without going to the smaller. It is noticeably easier going into the easier gears. I can attest to that. Shifts well under load. Like, I don't know. I got into bikes where it was common knowledge to kind of like finesse the pedals a little bit when you're shifting. So I don't tend to shift under load. I imagine that it's going to suck just like any other like derailleur. It's not really designed for that. In terms of going to the smaller cogs, it definitely takes more effort. So, all right. Thank you so much for your videos. Thank you for watching. Here, remember a roller jig, but it was just to smooth out the cable line, not to just pull. Yeah, you can use this. You can use these as roller jigs. it's got 2 holes. So if you use the outer one, you can just use it to kind of soften the bend. Let's see. So Duck Drung asks, would sizing down on this SAM help me? I think I might be on the smallest size SAM there is. I mean, it could potentially like shorten the reach, but it would start to look really goofy. I mean, it already looks kind of goofy as it is with like, I don't know, like 10 inches of seat post. It's just, it's designed for body proportions that are not mine. All right. Did you guys see the video on the alt cranks? We've got so many here. If you have any questions about the alt cranks, maybe Luke or Stan or whoever's running the Soma account can chime in. I've been pretty happy with them. Again, like the only things I wish were different were the shorter crank lengths. Like if they could do like down to 160, 155, that'd be more on trend. 745 best slick tires. The Rivendell or the WTB equivalents. What's funny is, or it's not funny, but 650Bs have like kind of gone out of fashion in like a big way, which is a bummer. But that means that you can find good deals on 650B tires. And I've been getting a lot of WTB like Horizons, which, I feel like they're maybe 80% to Rivendell, but I can get them for $15 a tire. Can you turn the Thompson like seat post around? Maybe that could be something. All right, everyone's been recommending this Origin 8 Pro Fit. I'm going to see if I can find it here in Europe. It's kind of slim pickings. All the weird stuff is in the States for sure, or is more available there. Okay. Well, since I've got 70 of you guys in the chat, I'd be curious to hear what you guys think I should do for next year. Like, what are the things you want me to cover? Like, do you guys still want bike reviews? I have mixed feelings about doing more bike reviews. I love riding new bikes, but I hate like the review process is very stressful for me because I feel like I have to really wrap my arms around the bike and before I can say anything conclusive. So I end up like swapping parts and testing things and all this other stuff. Like a good example is the double cross. I've had that for a while. And I'm still like trying to figure out the handling on it because the way it's set up, it's handling a little strange, and I want to see if I can do some things to make it ride not so strange. All right, we got a vote for more Cave of Bad Ideas. Yeah, let me know what you guys want to see. Visit the China Cycling Expo 2026. That'd be interesting. Elizabeth says, love the hack videos. Yeah, I'd mentioned doing a Peak Mechanical book. So I should probably crack on that. Okay, we got one person that likes to ride videos. Okay, so vote for TNH. Yeah, TNH, we're gonna get back at it on Sunday. I've been trying to get those sponsored because it's one of the few formats that I feel like holds a sponsorship well. And AdSense just sucks, and the economy, all that stuff. Our store, we're not selling as much stuff, so it's becoming it's becoming more important that we get that segment sponsored. So I've been waiting until we get actual people to sponsor it before we do it again. But we got a sponsor for this Sunday, and it's Philip from Cute Bikes, the Beanie Bikes. They're going to come out with a titanium model in 2026. So he sent over some secret spy photos of that. So they're going to be the sponsor for the next TNH. Drew says, what do I want to do? I've been actually quite enjoying the ride videos, like where I ride and pontificate. The first one did okay, and then the last two like totally bombed, to the point where, you know, those are two kind of slots where I can make videos for the channel, and it just wasn't worth the time. And you know, we've got to pay rent, so like the videos have to perform to like a certain level. So unfortunately, you know, the things I personally want to do don't always perform well on YouTube. So I kind of have to placate the algorithm. All right, another one for TNH. Grant should seize my rib. He should. I'm gonna do very ungrant things to this Rivendell, unfortunately. Let's see. Question here. Speaking of philosophy, consumption, something to ramble about. Yeah, you know, that's one of the. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about especially the consumption aspect. I'm actually, I tend to just buy like one or two things and use them for a very long time. The channel kind of forces me into always getting new things, which I don't think is typically my nature. So there's like this conflict of, you know, am I just promoting conspicuous consumption? But I hope, like, my goal for all these videos and for any review is like not to make you guys want to buy it. Just think of it as like a touch tank where I touch and feel it and describe it to you, because you might not have a chance to have it in your area or something, so you can get a sense of it, not to get you guys to buy it. Yeah. Q's is a red flag. Yeah, you know, I did my last Q's video and it totally underperformed. Typically, all my Q's hacks do really well. And the last one just like 10 of 10. I was like, oh, what's going on? Okay, Cave of Bad Ideas, ride vacations. Yeah, bike tests are good. Yeah, they just take a long time to do, or to do them well. Someone here, ride video with like electric group sets. I have considered that. You know, I've had people from Wheeltop reach out. I think of all the electronic group sets, that might be the one I'd be most inclined to try, just because I can set it up to different drivetrains. But yeah. So, question about the crank. What was the motivation for going for an external bottom bracket rather than square taper? I think mostly to provide like a modern option for people. I personally don't care, but a lot of people wanted external BBs, and you know, there's lots of cranks out there which are 110/74 square taper, and there's very little that offer that an external BB. So I feel like it was a crank that could provide something different, because if it was another like 110/74 BCD square taper crank, I mean, that's a dime a dozen. You could get spa cycles, you could get old Seguinos. You know, then there's the Paul crank that came out, which, yeah, that's square tapers, SRAM 3-bolt. So I feel like it was something it was a crank that wouldn't overlap with what was out there already on the market, was the thinking. All right, another fan of the Cave of Bad Ideas. Let's see. It's been fun to see the channel evolve over the past decade. Yeah, definitely have to keep changing. Like what works on YouTube, what works on our channel like 3 years ago doesn't work today. You know, what worked 10 years ago definitely doesn't work today. What worked last year sometimes doesn't work today. So it's always a matter of like evolving, seeing what formats work, what don't work, what's the best payoff in terms of like time and return on an investment. So someone asked about 2025 wrap up and highlights awards video. You know, I've decided to stop doing awards. I did it as I started the most supple bike of the year award as kind of like a joke. Just because everyone had their own friggin' rewards. So like the whole joke with ours was like we had the most laurels than any other like bike industry award. So yeah, it started as a joke. I feel like websites or brands do that to kind of validate themselves, which is fine. And I'm just kind of tired of doing that. But also, like, I mean, can you really say something is the best of everything? You'd have to try so many products, which I don't have time for. Like, I'm a single editor or presenter here. So it wouldn't really be like conclusive. So that's problematic. And I feel like in some ways, sometimes they're kind of more of a vanity thing for the person presenting, because yeah, I don't know. I have mixed emotions about the whole awards thing. So I've decided to stop doing it. Let's see. Microshift is the answer for all the answers, even if not budget anymore. Microshift is good. I don't know that it's the answer for everything. There's some things I wish Microshift would make that they don't. But yeah. Rick Herb says, how about some sort of survival format? Where you ride really far from home, break something on your bike, and you're forced to fix it and find your way home. That's not a format. That's just like a Saturday ride. There's so many times when we go on a ride and the first thing Laura asks is like, are you testing anything on this bike? And do you have the things to fix it if it breaks? Yeah, I've had a couple of derailers, not on purpose, break on a ride. Cool. Thanks, Bike Farmer, for rating. Under pain of broken chain links if I didn't. Nice. Sweet. Is he doing a live stream too? Like, this is completely unplanned. I just decided to do this just because I was trying to get a video up and couldn't pull it together. Nice. Thanks for coming over. Thanks, Andy, for sending folks over. Yeah, after one of my first my quasi depressing ride video on my birthday, Andy had sent me a message to talk about the YouTubes and commiserate. I feel like it's a very peculiar kind of, I don't want to say hell, because it, like, in terms of as jobs go, it's actually really good, but there are just weird things. Like, one is, you know, there's no relationship between the amount of work you put in and like success or metrics. It's not like if I work harder, I get more views. It's completely like arbitrary, and it's this arbitrariness of, am I going to be rewarded or am I going to be punished? It doesn't make sense. Thanks everyone coming over from the Bike Farmer live stream. Nice. Okay, Well, micro shift sword, 2x front derailleur, 10-speed work with 11-speed drivetrain. Yes, that will work. If you guys have drivetrain questions, by the way, yeah, ask away. I've got like a crap load of random knowledge. One thing I did want to make clear, there was a lot of confusion about whether a GRX front derailleur will work with the alt crank. There was a lot of hand-wringing about it being, 3 millimeters off. A couple people have confirmed that the stock GRX front derailleur will work with the IRD Polaris, so hand-wringing, not necessary. Maybe I can leverage all the experience we've had in content creation and let people see how the sausage is made. There are tons of content creators out. Yeah, there are lots of great content creators. This is how this. I think the live stream is a great format for showing how the sausage is made. Yeah, more laurels. Thanks again for coming over from the Bike Farmer. 1X is a downgrade. I'm not gonna lie. I do have 1X up on the Blackheart, and for that bike, again, like I do this thing, I don't know if you guys do it, where I turn every bike into the same bike, and I'm realizing not every bike I have needs ultra wide range 2X. So with the Blackheart, completely okay with it just being 1X, and I'll have my ultra wide range 2X for the kind of more touring off-road bikes. Nice. Howdy, Bike Farmer folks. It is not a Primos in the background. You just made Grant Peterson cry. It's a Riv. Can't you tell by the bokeh? Hey there, Andy. Yeah, thanks. I know thanks for the raid. Totally unplanned. I didn't know you were doing a live stream today. I was trying to get a video up on the Rivendell OM1 Derailer and completely failed. So I decided to do a random live stream. Cool. So if you guys have any questions about the Riv, let me know. Or do you guys have any questions about other random drivetrain hacks? Let me know. So here's a good question. Yeah, how do you keep the passion to keep pumping videos? Don't you lose the motivation? Yes. Honestly, every like 3 months or so, I go through a slump where I'm like, why am I doing this? I have lots of ideas, and the problem is like I can have I think like an interesting tutorial, but it's not going to perform well as a video. So it's not from a lack of ideas. It's just like a lack of okay, this idea it's something that interests me and will also like perform well for the algorithm. That's a balancing act. If I had my druthers, if let's say YouTube subscriptions work like the way that they should, like where if someone subscribes, you see the video, then I do a whole bunch of like nerdy like tutorial type stuff and less of this like, oh my god, Shimano Q is worst thing ever kind of videos. But because of the way the algorithm works, it really rewards kind of like the more extreme framings of topics. So that's just the game we play. Yes, it is strange to have a codependent relationship with an algorithm. Non-creators don't understand. And it's a worst kind of relationship because you're in this limbo where you don't know if you're going to be rewarded or if you're going to be punished for the thing that you just put up. Let's see. To work with 1X had to use a 30-tooth. It was fine on hills, but too slow to go fast, 1150. Yes, that is a big problem with 1X. You got to compromise, right? You either get the low speed that you want at the cost of the high speed, or get the top speed that you want at the cost of the low speed. And that's why the wide range 2X is the best. Shimano or SRAM. I'm more of a Shimano person. Like SRAM, there's a couple things about SRAM I don't like. The first one is like them shoving 1X on everybody. The fact that they use dot fluid instead of mineral oil in their road shifters. The fact that all their stuff is like really expensive. Like they've abandoned the middle to low end. That's where I feel like Shimano does a better job. I guess I'm more of a traditionalist in terms of like bike components. That's why I gravitate towards Shimano. Another thing I don't like is they had this phase where they're just making like literally disposable bike parts, like the blip shifters, battery operated, not rechargeable. So once they're done, you just throw them away, which seems problematic from someone that came into biking from not like a greedy perspective, but you know, it was like a nice reason to get into biking. Also, they had that period where, you know, you could only get the cranks with the power meters and like the rings were non-replaceable. So once the rings went bad or the power meter went bad, you had to chuck the whole thing. And I absolutely hate the attitude from SRAM. So Shimano all the way. Let's see, more hack videos. Do we know if yes, it would work with the jab. Again, the jab comes with a different like pulley thing. So, you know, get a micro shift thumb shifter and the appropriate cable pulley thing and it will work. Rick, no, that is completely your imagination. 3X is dead. Someone asked, can you speak to the form versus function aspect of Rivendell? Having not ridden one, they seem to be more style and wacky chainstays, retro grouchy. Do they actually ride well compared to others? Yeah, so I'm going to be honest, Rivendells are not to everyone's taste. I think in some ways I like the Rivendell vibe more than the geometry sometimes, depending on the bike. Like I feel like this is a good bike with swept-back bars, but with drop bars, it's a little hard for me to fit. If there's a bike that the Hillborn rides closest to, it would be something like the Ritchie Outback, the newer versions with the long chain stays. I don't think there's, you know, like in terms of ride quality, like the fork I can feel like there's a little bit more bend and it's just a little bit more supple. Part of that also is a quill stem, like between the non-disc fork blades and the quill stem, there's a lot of like movement going on and like natural suspension. So that's where like I feel like there's like a really unique kind of sensation. But then again, you know, that could be said for any like rim brake bike with a quill stem. Ultimately, it's one of those things where you can't be a bean counter about, and it's largely vibes. You know, you have to like the aesthetics, you have to like the philosophy, and you have to be kind of open to like the long chain stay and like the odd geometry compared to like other bikes. Let's see. All right, we got someone from South Dakota. Here we go. In Japan, it's almost a crime to break the rules. Mechanics will not touch a bicycle if something is out of the books. That's a bummer. Like really, like even like the blue light or the circles folks won't do something weird. Ricardo, you're so mean. You started it, buddy. I don't get the Rivendell thing because they have V-brakes. Not sure why I would get that instead of disc brake bike. So here's the thing. The last time I went over the handlebars was with a V-brake bike. So like I feel like V-brakes are actually really good in terms of stopping power. Like I would take a V-brake bike over any cheap TRP mechanical disc cable disc any day. I feel like they stop way better. In some ways, like V-brakes are, they're the ultimate cantilever brake. Like I feel like they get a bad rap because they're on cheap bikes, but in terms of like price per stopping power, if they're set up right, they're really, really good. And better than a lot of like mechanical like road disc brakes without getting into the fancier ones. So I wouldn't be, it's a quirk, but I wouldn't be completely put off by it. Let's see. All right, someone asked, will we see more videos on the diverse updated shifting capabilities of the Growtac shifters? Yeah, I kind of, to be honest, guys, I have a love-hate relationship with the Growtac shifters. The right one is great. My left one is still broken. They sent over another 3D printed cam part because I broke mine on the left. And I don't think the left is ready for prime time with like modern front railers. Like the front railer just has so much more tension than the rear. Like it makes the cable dig into the plastic or whatever material that they're using for the innards. And it's not great. I mean, I feel like it would be okay with the old school like road front trailer, but not with like a Q's, not with a modern mountain bike front trailer. Let's see. Yeah, rim brakes are disc brakes. I should have led with that. I still have stickers that say rim brakes are disc brakes. David says, as someone who's looking to downsize their fleet, gasp. I'd love a video series looking into the one bike to rule them all arena. I used to think that there was one bike that could rule them all. But I don't think that's true anymore. I feel like I've tried lots of all-rounders, and there's always going to be something that it can't do. Like depending on where you live or where you ride, it's always going to be like a compromise. So like halfway happy, as they said in Stranger Things. I think, if you don't ride any trails or dirt or anything like too gnarly, then a bike like the Bossy Belmont is actually really good. I feel like that's, it has a lot of qualities of like a gravel bike, all-road bike, road bike, rando bike, all in one, which in a fairly like affordable package. For me, a bike like that, or that bike in particular, would be something that would be closest. Bike Farmer, thanks for the hamburger money. Nice. Awesome. Thanks. And he's a great guy, folks. You're a legend. So just got here. Have you talked about the Madrone jab? No, it's a little bit. It's great so far. I think what I'm going to do is, I have it on the Sklar PBJ. I'm going to, no, I don't have it. I have it on the Blackheart. I'm going to put it on the Sklar PBJ and compare it with the Dior and do a video like something like $50 derailleur versus $300 derailleur, because that's what the YouTube wants. In kind of my limited experience with the jab versus the Dior, the jab just feels like a lot crisper shifting. Like when you wiggle the derailleur, there's like, it doesn't flex as much as the Dior. So I think that aids in that. But it'd be fun to do a video and test it out. Favorite short pull flat bar levers? Honestly, anything that works. Like I don't get too bougie with flat brake levers, especially mechanical ones. Need a setup video on the jab. It's pretty straightforward. Like depending on which iteration you. Well, actually, that's not true. There are a couple quirky things. Maybe I'll address those in that when I put on the PBJ. Yeah, wait for that video. All right. So it sounds as if you guys want more hack videos. Some people like the ride videos. It's always hard to say. You know, December is always like an interesting month on YouTube because I feel like AdSense pays really well because everyone's advertising. But in terms of like the seasonality of bikes, it starts to taper off. So there's this kind of rush to make videos this month because it'll pay well, but the algorithm isn't necessarily pushing it out or people aren't necessarily searching. So I don't know. All that to say is I'm going to try to crank out a bunch of videos this month to capitalize on the AdSense. So if you guys have ideas, let me know. Or better yet, join us on Patreon. So we don't have to make this mad scramble. It gives us a budget or pick up some merch. Here's one thing that we haven't announced publicly yet. But I think we're going to shut down our store end of this year. How it works right now, or let me rephrase that. We're going to have our store, but we're going to shut down our fulfillment of physical products. We've been working with a small fulfillment company in Montana, which they're great. They're the same people that ship bedrocks, and I think they work with Swift Industries and stuff. But it costs a lot to run, and with the general like downturn of the economy, people aren't just buying random stuff. So it's actually costing us money. It's costing us more money to maintain the store than we're making. So it just doesn't make sense. So if you guys, all that to say, if you guys want to buy stickers, stem caps, patches, get them before the end of the year. So yeah, definitely stock up on all the Party Pace stuff. We might, revisit it at some future date if we can set up fulfillment here in Europe or find some other way. But to give you guys a sense, like we're paying, I think like $600 a month to have that fulfillment center. And every time they pick a product, they take $1 off, 25 cents off. So it's costing us right now more money to have the shop than we're actually making. So we gotta stem the bleeding. Yeah, you know who's super good at setting up triples? Bike Farm. Yeah, if you guys want your triple fix, Rick, go to the Bike Farmer. Let's see. Built a bike last year, 4226, good combo, 1142, 11-speed JRX 810. Given out shifters is friction. Yep. Yeah. I feel like the wide range double for me has been solved, both in friction and in index, especially with Qs and like our latest hack. So now I'm kind of figuring out like where to go. Should I get into triples? Yeah, who knows? All right, so I've been yapping for about an hour, 8 minutes. Thanks all for joining. Thanks Rick and Andy for the super chats. You guys are legends. Hopefully this answered some of your questions about the Riv OM1 Derailer setup and quirks to look out for. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll, when I do an actual full video on it, I'll try to incorporate those. And yeah, if you guys like the content, please join us on Patreon, pick up some merch. It's how we keep the lights on, literally, because AdSense sucks sometimes. All right, everybody. Thanks. Good night. And as always, keep the supple side down.